understand what is actually the politics of regional identity. Like, what does it mean by a region? So, region is nothing but a homogeneous area or like a union, uh, similar territory. So, this territory has both physical and cultural characteristics with distinct from another area. So how do you call this particular region as such region? Like, how do you draw a boundary? How do you demarcate or distinguish the things that have been going on in that particular area to be different from the others? It's because a unique character that they project and the unique features which are confined to only such regions and unique identities or unique criteria or like their day of living or anything as such is confined or restricted to such particular area only. So that's why it is called as a region. So now this region, or if you are confined to that particular boundaries of that thing, that will give you a sense of separateness from in comparison when you look out with the other area or other regions that are neighbor to you. So you feel that you belong to that region rather than you belong to like the beside region because they don't identify. You don't see yourself, you don't see your persona, you don't see your characters over there in the other region. So that's why it gives you a sense of like home. It gives you sense of separateness from the others. So that's why this politics of this regionalism, the regional sentiments, these regional values that come into the picture. So this regionalism and sub-regionalisms make them feel marginalized. Let's suppose you belong to certain area and uh, your day-to-day living, your cultural and your physical aspects will make you distinct from the other, from the people belonging to the other region, right? So that will give you a notion that you belong to that place rather than you belong to the other place that you are confined to. In a way, it makes you feel marginalized or it makes you feel stick to that particular region. So then what is regional identity? If spoken from the political point of view, regional identity is nothing but like what is identity? Identity is like how do you project yourself? Like how what does your consciousness tells about you? What does your sub conscious mind speaks about you? Like how different or how do you feel things differently? Like how do you feel things in comparison with the others? So this how do you feel things could be seen from the perspective of culture, history, political, economic. So this is mostly an insider outsider feeling. So anthropological studies usually do this insider outsider studies where they put themselves in the area of research and in that particular region and do the area of research and they put themselves outside of that area of research and do a particular analysis on the things. So that will give you sometimes a sense of belonging to that region and it will give you that sense of understanding like why do you act the way you act as such. So this identity is generally like it's like deprivation of their belonging. It means exploitation. Just suppose, uh, let's suppose you have this sense of consciousness. It gives you a notion that you belong to certain place. So what if suddenly that certain place will start objecting whatever you feel as a negative and will start projecting you as an outsider. Okay, that is supposed to be your place, but you feel yourself as an outsider in your own place. So that this sense of exploitation, this sense of deprivation, this sense of non-belonging to your own region will make you feel conscious, will make you feel that you don't belong there, will make you feel that like this is my place, like I'm supposed to be here. Why do I live like an outsider? So this identity politics, regional sentiments have when they are hurt, then they can be seen in the notion of movements or the revolution among the public. So this identity politics is nothing but people mobilize, social mobilization, political activity of people belonging to the same region, language, culture, ethnicity against any dominant groups. Let's suppose there's a dominant group who's been oppressing the original original people who belong to that land. Now these people have lost their cool and they started mobilizing themselves in the name of like anything, and they largely mobilize and they fight against the dominance of a certain particular group who's been oppressing them. So that's how the identity politics have come into the picture, and this is kind of fear of being marginalized or discrimination. This has come out of fear of marginalization or discriminated in their own place. So then it led to the creation of separate states on the basis of religion, language, race, then statehood for economic, social, political development. So in spite in view of like now, let's suppose people feel that they get this feeling of they don't belong to that place in spite of it being their space and them being oppressed by some other dominant class who's been protecting their power. Now, what will all these people do? This all people will come together irrespective of anything. They unite for a political or a social consciousness that the land belongs to them. Then they protest against the dominant group discrimination, which will eventually become a bigger thing and leads to a statehood movement. So this statehood movement would be basically seen in perspective of their social, economic, and political development. So now reasons for regional identities. So these reasons have especially come out after 1960s. You can also see during fourth general election 1967 with the rise of like new middle class in picture and Congress losing dominance, especially with local or regional parties coming into the power or exerting their power. This this regional politics or identity politics have taken severe course of deviation, and this has given rise to various uh, changes in the political structure of India. So this can be seen in the notion of geography, historical, cultural, economic, and political aspects. So if talking about geographical aspect, so this identity pertaining to geography and place, you can also see this in the case of princely states, where the princely states were divided based on the boundaries. And there, so that loyalty is also divided on that. Like initially, when India was formed, this princely state were accumulated into the Union of India. So this princely state, this regional geographical identity notion can be seen in the perspective of princely states. Then historical can be seen in terms of cultural heritage, folklore, and myths. So you can also see this in case of Shiv Sena and DMK, where they bring up this their heritage, their notion of heritage, their notion of culture, of they belong to that region, like the the Tamil culture and or the Marathis or the Maratha culture, like all these things, like Mumbaikas, they belong to that certain place. It is Mumbai, Maharashtra is for Marathis, etc. Like that notion have brought them to unite and politically socialize themselves in forming a group which would help bring their consciousness and overthrow the dominant classes who've been oppressing their identities. So now economic notion can also be seen in terms of development and administrative power. So this interestingly can be seen in terms of Telangana and Jharkhand, where mostly the statehood was formed on the notion of development and administration because it was restricted to it was restricted, and the people of Telangana or Jharkhand, they felt that the resources they were exploited. They were kindly exploited by the dominant classes, and the resources from them were transferred and develop and used in the development of the other parts of the region. So this was a notion of the movement. You can see the Telangana and Jharkhand movement, statehood movement, can be seen on the notion of development and administrative powers. Now, the relative reasons for regional identities and relative deprivation. So, if a particular region is deprived in terms of distribution of resources, infrastructure, uneven development, insufficient and private public investment with and caste barriers. So, this relative deprivation notion will give rise where the separate statehood notion will come into the picture, and Gorkhaland National Liberation Front is also one such thing, and the political reason for rise of this regional identities is based on the slogan like sons of soil and outsiders feeling. Sons of soil means people belonging to that particular region own their dominance, own that regional resources up to themselves rather to be administered by a certain dominant outsider class. Then political parties of the region also have come into the picture. Like basically, people have started mobilizing for their separate statehood and for the to unite against the oppression that has been done by the dominant groups. So, in order to get rid of that, they started mobilizing and started forming political parties where they could be used to oppress the exploitation that has been done by such classes. Then politicians, of course, also took their advantage to the regional sentiments. Many such political parties also arose in the nation of these regional sentiments, and also they have done their vote bank politics in the name of this regional sentiments, etc. This has happened every time, and this can also seen in the Khalistan movement of 1980, which was oppressed or stopped by Operation Blue Star, and the it was brought back to the normalcy. And it is like why do people feel that they don't they just particularly belong to that region, they are confined to that certain region? It is because of the colonial rule that we have had all these years. So what happened in colonial rule was, for administrative purposes, this British empire have literally divided India, and they ruled India on the disparities, and they kept the people divided, either be it in the name of caste, religion, or regional, or anything, or economic, anything as such. They have divided the people because it was very easy for them to rule. So the carrot and stick policy and divide and rule. See, if there's a larger group, it is very easy to manage that larger group if it's divided among itself. So you can confine or talk to the parties in parts rather than talking to a group of a large group in large numbers where everybody is united and they would not get manipulated easily by you. So this is how the colonial administration, colonial politics also have played role in this bringing up divisions in regional identities. And planning commission, and also like you can ask that after independence, then there has to be something which should be looked into to get back or reduce this regional disparities. So this can be seen in terms of planning commission and financial commission. So where this planning commission and finance commission, they've been set up especially to look into the regional disparities and imbalances in the development. So this planning commission, Niti Aayog or whatever the finance commission, this we have read in previous lectures. So if you have missed them, please go through these lectures online on YouTube. So you'll find them interesting. So then you can understand like how this has helped reduce the disparities. So what these commissions used to do is they would be looking into the underdeveloped regions and understand that why these regions are as such, and the during the disbursement of the funds, these regions would be given little extra importance in bringing up them on an equal note with the other developed nations, sorry, states. So it used to look in disparities in development due to uneven development of the states. And this also could be termed with the notion of during post-liberalization, this has led to uneven development. See, when the liberalization has happened, you would have seen when the liberalization have happened in 90s, you could have seen that by then most of the states the development among most of the states was different. Okay, so no state was unanimously developed. So now with the liberalization and with the opening of uh, borders and with opening of the resources and policy implementations, where the states with the better infrastructure was able to grab this opening of borders because there's already been established structure that was existing, right? So it was just a boon for them. But whereas where there are areas where this economy, this structure, this infrastructure is not already existing, so it had become very difficult for them to stay in the competition. So this has further led to regional irregularities or disparities, and you can see a sharp difference in the developmental imbalances in between these states. So that's why it had led to the formation of Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and the Telangana. So these things you can understand like they are due to colonial policies, then oppression of the dominant class, then post-liberalization thing movements, and the political structure at the center and the union. So all these have thing have fueled and led to the increase of regional sentiments among the people. So we are reading regional identities last chapter. Then contemporary politics of regional identities. So we have certain states. This is changed now. So then it led to the this is changed now. So it led to the demands of statehood, self-autonomy, and economic powers. Then 31 regions have demanded for statehood. This is very important. This is very important from MCQ point of view because I keep seeing all these questions in certain competitive exams. So with the like the imbalances, with the notion for the economic development or the political agenda of certain political parties, or even the economic exploitation that needed to be carried out by certain dominant groups, this has led to 31 regions demand for the statehood. So first one could be seen is Maru Pradesh, which is in Rajasthan. Then Bundelkhand, Purvanchal, Bhojpur, Harit Pradesh, Jharkhand in Uttar Pradesh. Then Vindhya Pradesh, Baghelkhand, Revanchal, Madhya Bharat, Mahakosal, Malwa in Madhya Pradesh. These are very important. They'll ask you like Maru Pradesh is a demand for statehood from which state? This is Rajasthan. Like that, they'll ask you. Or example, Mahakosal or Malwa or Madhya Bharat is a demand for state from which region? Madhya Pradesh. Then Saurashtra is Gujarat. Konkan, Vidarbha, Marathwada in Maharashtra. Coorg, Kodagu and Sagari Prant in Karnataka. Kosal Rajya, Orissa. Then Gorkhaland, Kamtapuri in West Bengal, autonomy demands for Jammu and Ladakh regions in Kashmir, then Bodoland, Karbi Anglong and Purbanchal in Assam, Kuki land in Nagaland, Garo land in Meghalaya, Mar state in Mizoram. So these are very important. So you can either take the screenshot or make a note of it, especially for the statehood, separate statehood or integration of states in uh, for a syllabus in competitive exams. So this is how the all the demands were still going on in these regions for the separate statehood. So then two elements. So the two elements like the demand for statehood, there are certain elements that where the demand for statehood can be asked for or can be raised. So this is like community and geography. So these two elements play an important role where the demand for statehood could be understood. So this is maintenance of regional identities. So self-devised and sustained mode of economic growth. Separate state in order to have a political identity and institutional space. Increase in distribution of political power and economic power in union. threat to their identity due to existence hegemony of certain cultural and regional groups. So now what happens is, so why do they want this notion for separate statehood? This is to maintain their regional identity so that they could not be oppressed by any dominant classes. Then maintenance, then self-devise and sustain mode of growth. Like, they think that they've been getting oppressed and that economic development has been disrupted. So they wish to have things for themselves and develop things on their own and separate state in order to have political identity and institutional space. Now that the institutions or the political spaces have been occupied by various dominant groups, various dominant other parties who are outsiders in the notion of this people belonging to that region. So they help in order to get rid of them. They wanted this separate state so that they can have their own political identity in that region. Then what happens if there's a separate state? So the separate constituencies will come into the picture, delimitation rule, and uh, they get to power and their presence in policy making, their presence in union will increase. Like in center, in parliament, they'll get recognition. Like what happened when Telangana state was formed, right? So 119 seats, then 17 seats. Like they had their presence, and the policies would be especially targeted for Telangana rather than it would be targeted for whole of Andhra Pradesh. So like this sense of belonging or your identity in outside world would increase, and this where the thing that it will be a threat to their existence, that could be that could be got ridden of, because they'll have their political space, they'll have this institutional space. Now if they are in this policy making power, then why would any group would oppress them? So they'll have the authority, right? So they can oppress the outsiders where if their voices are seen to be cut off. So that is how the contemporary politics of regional identities, all these features have played a role. Then distinct socio-cultural identity, inhibiting a few adjoining districts within the existing state. So it's like they also demanded this uh, separate statehood notion on the socio-cultural identity. Like their social and cultural identity is different from their neighboring and their beside states, which is different in comparison with them. So like that also they have brought up things. Then let us understand the formation of Jharkhand now. Jharkhand, on what notion it has been formed? Economic development, okay, social disparities. So on the notion of this thing, Jharkhand state has been formed. So this is a forest region. Jharkhand is a forest region in Chota Nagpur Plateau. So this is a Chota Nagpur Plateau region, resting forest, and the notion it called for separate statehood is lack of development in the region, and the population which belong to Jharkhand is mostly tribes, and you can see they are like Kulhan, Palamu, Santal, Pargana. So, and the non-tribes also exist. They are called Dikus. And what happened is exploitation, and these people have been losing their lands to exploitation, and by especially the coal mines and the mining, because it is rich in mines, and this led to the destruction of their livelihood, and it also led to displacement of these tribes and non-tribes in huge number. So they were not able to do this displacement policies properly, because it was actually managed by the other dominant classes. So their voices were cut off, and they did not had any role in that policy making. So, in the view of that, this separate region, separate statehood for Jharkhand was demanded. Then, the with mining in picture and industrialization, it gave rise to increase in 75% of revenue of the state. So you can see the uneven development, because the the regions where there are mining mines exist, that region could be exploited, and the other regions where the dominant and other classes rest. This money or the whatever the income that has been brought up from this region would be put up for the development of the other region, and these regions would be left all alone. So then 15 tribal districts of Bihar, Orissa, West Bengal, and Madhya Pradesh, they have a population of over 3 crores. So these all people have demanded for a separate statehood of Jharkhand. So then, of course, it had to take turn into political mobilization because otherwise people voices were unheard. So this has led to the rise of Jharkhand Party, a political party in 1950 under the in Bihar under the leadership of Jaipal Singh. This is also a very important thing. So this party represented the Adivasi regional identity, and 1952 it won elections, and it had won around like 30 seats in Bihar Assembly and three in Lok Sabha. So then you all know that State Reorganization Commission was going on in 1955. When this region has demanded for a separate statehood on the notion of this economic development or whatever, this State Reorganization Committee has rejected their demand for separate statehood. So the Jharkhand formation or the Jharkhand movement, statehood movement, separate statehood movement, is not something that have come recently or anything as such. This has been existing way since the beginning of independent India. So the first rejection starts from here. So that's how the things literally took a lot of time, which also led to irregular development, imbalances. All these things have been ignored all along. Then the tribal population is minority and no irregularities in development. And the 1960s did not progress. See, why the separate statehood for Jharkhand was rejected because the demand which was put forward by the Adivasi political party, that was a minority populated party, and that was the people who demanded for it are in minority. And also this state reorganization committee did not see any irregularities in the development because excuse me, because the statehood, because the independent India was just formed, and it was not looking into the disparities that have been left out by the British colonials. So and this was seen with rapid industrialization due to the mining. Then the differences have started to come into the picture, and the working class. Then what happened was in 1960 also, it did not progress at same rate as that of Bihar. So this region, this Jharkhand region, which was with Bihar, the other side of Bihar was getting developed because uh, with funding, with the attention that it was getting, but this region was still kept underdeveloped. And in purview of this, Jharkhand party had merged with Congress party in 1963. So the working class left politics emerged in the region, formed an alliance with Adivasi and peasants. So this has in fact led to rise of Naxalism. So this has led to rise of anti-state uh, elements. So as the state was reckless in identifying the issues, state was reckless in identifying the problems. So there was a rise of this anti-state elements, and Naxalism has emerged because of the exploitation that had caused, and no state was and the state was not ready to listen to them. So these are all the factors that led to the formation of Jharkhand Mukti Morcha (JMM), and under the notion like also formed Marxist Coordination Committee. So now in late 1970s, what happened in late 1970s, the Jharkhand movement was going on, and it did see ups and downs. Like it was not a straight linear curve. So sometimes the movement was high, sometimes the movement was low, and the formation of United Front which was with various left groups and political party. The Jharkhand Mukti Morcha was formed under leadership of Shibu Soren, who belonged to Santal Paragana, and Benode Bihari Mahato in 1973. So, but in 1980, Shibu Soren has formed another group with Nirmal Mahato. Like they had the split in the party. Then All India Jharkhand Students Association was formed in 1986, and they, along with the Jharkhand Coordination Committee, they have intensified this uh, agitation for separate statehood of Jharkhand. So now, what was the ideology that was behind for this separate statehood movement? Like workers or the peasants should lead the movement. It led to the revival of movement to drive out non-tribals from the region. Okay, so this was a tribal-led movement. It was a peasant-led movement where they oppressed or they wanted to stop this oppression by the non-tribals who've been oppressing these tribal groups who are a minority in that region. So 62 cultural political organizations have come out in by 1987. Then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared Chota Nagpur as a culturally distinct area. So with all these political and cultural, politico-cultural organizations have come out and projecting their uniqueness, that they are different from others. So this region was addressed as a culturally distinct area by then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So what happened? A JAC Jharkhand Area Autonomous Council was notified in the State Gazette in 1995, and the State for Separate Jharkhand came into existence on 15th November 2000. So this is how, like, when was the demand was done? 1953. Now, when was the state was formed? 2000. So you can imagine uh, how can a 50 years of difference could literally bring out the imbalances. Okay, so it was a 50-year agitation that was being continued by the tribals of this region. So this is how the Jharkhand have come into the picture, formation of separate statehood. Now let us understand how the Telangana movement for Telangana have come into the picture. So this you can see, most of you are familiar with the separate statehood for Telangana, right? So the Telangana separate statehood also on the notion of distinct culture, variation of languages, distinct culture, language, customs, which have been further brought in disparities during the colonial period. So this Telangana Telugu speaking region of the feudal Hyderabad state, so they have their own distinct culture, variation of language, customs, and the colonial disparities that have brought up with, because the Hyderabad state, initial Hyderabad state was under Nizam rule, and the Andhra was under the British colonial empire. So you can see the disparities that it had. So and the access to the education, medical, health, economic, all these differences could be seen very on a large differences that could be noted on. So the Andhra region was under direct rule of British, while was under Nizam rule, and sub-regional identities led to the formation of demand for political identity, and State Reorganization Committee 956 favored a separate state, Telangana state. But this movement, but then the Andhra, which was bifurcated from a Madras presidency, and the Hyderabad state were clubbed together to form Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so this has led to, like, it was still oppressed by then uh, parties, by then intellectuals, but it was done under the notion of a gentleman's agreement where the disparities could be addressed, they thought, where the disparities could be addressed. So that was not actually did not happen as uh, it was supposed to be or as it expected to be. Then the movement really went off in three phases. This can be seen in 1950 to 69, 1990, 2009, 2009, 2014. So if you are writing any answer for the statehood for the formation of Telangana, you can divide such a huge, long historical oppression in phases, in three phases as such. So first phase, 950 to 63, immediately after the merging with it. Now what happened here was the Mulki agitation have come into the picture, where because the non-Mulkis, people, non-residents of this particular region have been taking up jobs. So, because as they've been under British rule, they had this access to education and they've been better at positioning themselves. So, all the jobs, all the criteria that had been there was filled by the non-Mulkis. So, it had led to Mulki agitation. This protest was brought up by students where they were fighting for this non-Mulkis taking up their position. So, it gave rise to that certain percentage should be under. Should be reserved for the mulkis of that region. And a significant event also had led in 1969. This is the first Telangana movement for separate statehood in 1969. So what happened is a massive student uprising happened in Telangana, and 69 a student named Ravindranath had started an indefinite hunger strike. So it's like one section of people demanding for separate statehood and other opting for integrated Andhra Pradesh with effective implementation of safeguards for the people of Telangana. So like the movement was divided basically, so one asking for a separate statehood and other asking for like the gentleman's agreement that you had come up earlier, that should be implemented properly. So the resources would be divided and that for the development, all the things that should be analyzed for. So what happened was on November 1st, Telangana region had merged with state of Andhra, and now the Andhra Pradesh was formed in 1956. So, and gentleman's agreement was also signed. So this can led to non-implementation of gentleman's agreement. So 1969 was mostly an discontentment on the part of not properly implementing this gentleman's agreement. So this 1969 has been led by under the leadership of Mari Reddy. The agitation was started by a student community. So then he formed Telangana Praja Samiti due to hartals and strikes back then in 1969, like where people were protesting on roads and they were doing this mass protest and strikes. The state's uh, instability, the political scenario of the state has been disturbed. So this has led to the attention, and they have carved out a 6 point formula. So it was under in 1980, it was under Chief Minister N.T. Ramarao. They diverted the investments to Hyderabad, and in 1997, BJP supported separate statehood for Telangana. So it's like one vote, two states. So they came up with this notion because BJP have come into the power in 96, although it did not stay. It had lost its power immediately. And it was in 1998 that it had formed, it was in 1988 that it was formed uh, power in the center. So the 2000, this is also very important, one vote, two states. This is with Telangana. This is brought up by BJP. Then in 2001, again, this agitation has been revived under the leadership of KCR, K. Chandrasekhar Rao, who has formed Telangana Rashtra Samiti, who had been resigned from the post of speaker and formed Telangana Rashtra Samiti for a separate statehood. They said that it's been enough. Like we've been getting exploited since, so we want to be recognized. We want to be addressed. So on the notion of that, this was formed. Then a TRS alliance had formed alliance with Congress, 26 assembly seats, and it had got 5 Lok Sabha seats, and it had also won local body elections in 2002 and 2004 elections, again, the scenario have changed. So the economic neglect, political marginalization, domination by powerful and resourceful castes from the dominant social coastal areas. So this had led, like, this was the main reasons that the demand had changed its curve and rigorously fought for it. Then new Telangana Praja Party was formed by Devender Gaud. Then TDP also had declared its support for Telangana in 2008. It was like Congress-led UPA government at the center announced separate statehood in 2009. But it went back on a issue in December 23 to 2009. If you have been following Telangana agitation, you would know all these timelines. So you would be getting, we had got too many, like you remember only the separate statehood movement as you people getting holidays, but it's more than getting a holiday. So all this timeline you should remember because back then you were too busy enjoying the holidays. Now it's time to understand like why the holidays were given. Then Joint Action Committee was formed. Telangana Atma Gauravam notion was brought up. Then Umbrella, uh, it's an umbrella organization, TJSC, which fought for the separate statehood of Telangana, where like all the employees, student joint action committee, political lawyers, women, doctors, employees, all these people have come up together and they formed at various district, state, mandal, and village level for the formation of separate statehood. So certain aims and objectives could be to increase pressure on political parties, like this was the objectives of TJSC, and to spread the ideas and actions regarding the movement. Like any movement would vanish off if there is no particular structure to it, right? So if there's a particular structure, then it is very important that it stays intact. So as people, huge people with different mentalities are usually unorganized. So this TJAC was much needed back then, and it had helped spread the ideas against and regarding the movement. And it brought up awareness among the people on the economic exploitation, like how this region has been getting exploited by these dominant groups, or by diverting the funds that was meant for the development of this region. Then imposition of Andhra culture on Telangana people. And this could be seen as mostly as a criticism of Telangana language, and like it's like the voices were cut off, they were nowhere to be seen. They felt this sense of non-belonging to the region, to their own region. Then organized many events like Chilo Assembly, Nirahara Diksha, Sakala Janala Samme, Million March. All these things are very important. And TJC's convener is Professor Kodandram. Then Sri Krishna committee was formed in 2010 to bring up a permanent solution, like how this this issue could be addressed. So it had met around like 30 times, visited 23 districts, around 35 villages. Then Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Bill was passed in 2014, and Telangana state was created in June 2nd, 2014. This is how the Telangana state have come into the picture. Now the influence you can see, like why the regional identities and the influence uh, have brought up the people to unite themselves. So a misrepresentation or non-representation will cause an agitation. Like it's simply that they are not easy, they are not free, so that they'll sit out to do a protest, but rather it's because of either their existence is vanished or their existence is cut off. So, on the notion of this, the agitation will arise anywhere, be it in anything. Then, essential interests, job factors is causing a regional change. And because the essential interests are mostly of the dominant sections, like it would be of politicians or policymakers belonging from the Andhra region and the neglected Telangana or the Jharkhand that had led for the people to fight for it. And job factors also, like as you all know, you can see in Mulki agitation, why was it? So the disparities are also caused them uh, fight for a separate statehood. Then redistribution. The redistribution was not happening properly. Yeah, because the spending or the infrastructure building or anything as such was mostly focused on the other regions, whereas this parts of this region was being neglected. Then emergence of Andhra Pradesh in 1953, many new states are formed on the basis of language. So here the language was looked into, but rather how different the cultural, how different the social notions of this particular regions are too different. They've been ignored by the State Recognition Committee. So, as per Paul Bross, who has studied eminently on this uh, statehood and successionist movement, he had come up with the four brilliant standards to form a new state. They shall be famous, peaceful, non-successionist, and language. So later, the phased rearrangement of borders within the formation of new states highlighted a good administration and the progress in the state. So the formation of Telangana, significance of the regional ethno-linguistic personality under administration and legislative issues of the state development. So the state of Telangana was mostly on the notion that it was the issues, the legislative issues that have brought up, and the long-standing inequalities in terms of wealth, education, jobs, common language will also not unite people. So the Paul Bras, in his studies, he has come up saying that the standards to be formed a new state, they shall be famous, peaceful, non-sectionist, and language. But this all notions where the states were formed in India on the notion of this have successfully failed because why the separate notion for the state would have been coming into the picture. We have seen in the early first few slides, right? Like how many other regions are asking for the separate statehood or demanding for separate statehood. So you can all see that, right? So the phase of rearrangement of borders with the formation of new states has arranged good administration and progress in the state. You can also write this in an answer, like if you're trying to explain how the influence has been. Then the formation of Telangana, the significance of the regional ethno-linguistic personality, all these things should be taken into consideration. And also the long-standing inequality should be taken into consideration. And the jobs and as all these things should be taken into consideration, not rather just a language. Okay, so all these indifferences, personalities, issues, all should be taken into consideration while demarcating or forming a new state, but not just on the notion of language. This was the thing that explains the separate statehood movements. So today, if this is a regional identities chapter, and you should understand that why the things has been going as such. So I think most of you are not present yesterday. I don't know what was the reason, but I spoke about Niti Aayog and uh, Chief Information Commission. So today we've read about regional identities. So regional identities, you can understand, like they'll ask you a question of like why the notion of regional identities. Then you can explain like how the things has been, like what is identities, what is politics of identity, like how this sense of belonging to one region notion comes into the picture, and why does a people belong that they have been like they don't get that sense of belongingness. Like you can understand, no, if you go to some new place, you feel that you don't belong there, but some places you feel that you belong there. But I'm talking about places where you feel that you don't belong there. Like why is it so? There could be many reasons in a point of view, in perspective of view, but if notion of like huge number of people are feeling that, that could be a political case, that could be an economic case, that could be an oppression that has been done by the other dominant sections. So all such reasons will sum up why the sense of belongingness or to be or a notion where they've been getting oppressed by an outsider will come into the picture. So this has led to a notion of regionalism or regional identities have come into the picture, and this can also mean that various exploitation, deprivation of their belonging, of their identity. Then identity politics have come into the picture, and various regional parties that have come into the picture based on this identity-based politics. Like, why do you, what are all these state parties? State parties are all identity-based politics because they've been in picture for certain cause, like they've been protesting for a certain cause. That's why they've come into the picture, right? So all these things are identity things. Then reasons. There are certain reasons where regional disparities, regional identities exist in India. This could be seen in terms of geography, history, cultural, economic, and political. So geography is princely states, history is Shiv Sena, DMK economic is Telangana and Jharkhand. Uh, then like the notion of relative deprivation, like the imbalances difference, imbalances in development and irregular distribution of funds and irregular like the partiality to be shown to certain regions where most of the dominant sections would come from. So all these things will play a role in the notion for the separate statehood. Then sometimes, of course, sometimes the political parties have also used this thing against for their own benefits, like the vote bank politics, regional identity politics. Like for them, in order to get them into power, they have also played their own part. Then then especially with post liberalization, the moment liberalization has happened, the disparities has increased more, right? Because liberalization avvagane monopoly, state monopoly was cancelled out. The private players were called into picture. The private investments were coming. Like if a foreign investments were coming, why would they pick any underdeveloped state? No, right. They are an outsider. They're mainly looking to do business. So if they're mainly looking to do business, why would they encourage any underdeveloped state? So mostly the developed states which were developed rapidly developed since then, they've been getting many investments. So which also led to rapid change in economic disparities. This had caused more uh, hurting of regional sentiments. So all these things also played an important role in bringing up such things. And this slide is very important uh, because there are many questions that have been coming from this thing. If there's a question of, see, you have a topic for separate statehood, right, in competitive exams. So for that, the many questions they've been asking, like uh, the demand, like where is Madhya Pradesh demanded from? It's from Rajasthan. So where is Bodoland or Karbi Anglong? It's from Assam. There is Saurashtra, Gujarat. So all these things you should understand, and this has been a common question. This has been a common question in competitive exams if they have a syllabus of separate statehood, like state reorganization or anything as such. So it's very important. So if you take a screenshot, it's well and good, or also you can make a note and you can also address these things in the exam. So this is how you can prepare for it, and you can write, yeah. So you can also write how the community and geography, like two elements where it plays a roles in demand for separate statehood. You can explain this in terms of Jharkhand, then formation of Telangana, where they'll ask you a question in your semester exams. So you can mention, then also you can write their ideologies and what are the things they have done. They can also TJSA in here what are the things that TJSA has come, or explain about JMM, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, how did it come into the picture? Or they can also ask you gentleman's agreement. And I'm hoping if there's a no separate Telangana uh, stated for separate Telangana semester, then these questions will be asked. Otherwise, they would commonly ask, what are the notions, what are the factors that has helped in this bring up this regional identity movements in India? Then you can write about Jharkhand and Telangana. Then you can also write like how the influence have been, and you should also quote Paul Bross because he has done enormous study in this ethno-regional identity movements. So you can give the four-phase analysis that has been given by him. So I think it's clear today. So everybody is clear with this today's lecture, and I hope, yeah, I hope you understood everything. So, and I tomorrow also join early, little bit early. So we'll be talking about that will be our final class, I think. Yeah, so we'll be winding up the last lecture, and we'll be winding up the whole uh, SEM, or the whole classes that we have taken earlier. So yeah, so I hope it is clear today. And if you have missed the initial lesson, then please go through this live on YouTube and make notes through it and understand like why the things happen. If you're preparing, and regarding the semester exams, so what we'll do is like um, you have to read it. You have to take out a book and read certain topics, like the certain units, and read them thoroughly, like a point wise, and make notes of it. Otherwise it will be very difficult for you to write this answer, because there are too many dates, too many political structures, too many analyses that have been given by various theories to understand. So if you make notes ahead, it will be very easy for you to write the answer, be it short answer or be it long answer, because you cannot sit down in exam to make an answer right then, right? So of course, if you're smart enough, you can do it, but uh, I don't think everybody is that smart enough, right? You have to work hard. Sometimes working hard will also pay off. Yeah. So that's all for today's class. See you all. Excuse me. See you all in next class, and go through all the lectures again and your notes for better understanding. So I hope it is clear today. Yeah. Okay. See you tomorrow.